I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberties and justice for all. I will now turn this meeting over to our wonderful president, Miss LaShanne Goins.
Good evening, everyone, fellow Toastmasters. It's good to see everyone tonight. Good to see you all online virtually. We are here another Monday. And we're going to start this meeting with our club mission, and that is that we provide a supportive and positive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth. Our values are integrity, respect, service, and excellence. And we do a great job with that in Spartanburg Toastmasters. Tonight, we don't quite have any visitors yet, but I am predicting that we will be getting some soon. Greg has some on the way, don't you, Greg?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so I just want to remind members to silence their devices on online attendees. To mute, just make sure you're muted, especially during times like the pledge. Make sure you're muted when others are speaking, because we do get feedback. So please be mindful of that. We are being recorded online, which is pretty awesome. Okay, there have been a few changes to the agenda.
A few
Changes to the agenda tonight. Burnnie, what are those changes to our agenda?
I have no idea.
Okay, so we're gonna go and flow as we normally do. It looks like we have everyone here. Cheryl has now become an evaluator in place of John Abercrombie doing 2 evaluations, which I don't see why he couldn't do 2 evaluations, but.
Now, am I still doing one?
No,
Oh,
no, it's Cheryl and Lee.
okay.
So we have 2 speakers and we're down to 2 speakers. Okay. And I will be speaking for 2 to 3 minutes. So time, if you may note that, that would be greatly appreciated. Okay. At this time, I know that we have our humor speech coming up and our international speech coming up. Do we have, is now the time to take volunteers for that? Can we take volunteers? Have you gotten any feedback, Lee, about those who will participate?
I have gotten one contestant so far. Randy Riddle is going to compete in the humorous speech contest.
Awesome.
But I am going to switch over to that role right now. So if you want to ask if there are any people who want to be contestants in either the humorous speech contest or the international speech contest, now would be a good time for them to let us know that.
Okay. John Abercrombie,
What?
he's international speech contest.
If you don't have anybody else, do it.
Mr. Abercrombie is going to do the international speech and the humorous speech contest. You're willing to do 2? He's going to do 2 that night.
If you
Okay.
guys can do it.
I'll be glad to help judge.
No, you got to do a humor speech.
I can't compete.
He's doing stuff at the higher.
I've got,
You have such good humor speeches.
well, if I did either of them, I would do the international speech
I know.
contest, but
I know.
I unfortunately this year I cannot compete.
Okay. John McKinney? Cheryl? No.
That would be a no, and you know why.
No.
No,
Both of you give such great speeches.
Well, I can't get Saturdays off,
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
so it'd be impossible for me to try to participate.
Okay. Andre, humor speech?
I thought I was not qualified. Have I met all the requirements?
You can compete in the humorous speech contest, but you wouldn't be able to participate in the international speech contest.
Okay, okay. And this could be on a Saturday?
No, for us, it'll be on a Monday night.
Okay.
And then I think one of the, I don't know what night the area contest will be on. One of the division contests will be on a Saturday, and then the district contest will be on a weekend down in Myrtle Beach, the last weekend of April, Friday,
Okay.
Saturday.
The humor speech won't go to that level, right?
Yeah, everything goes to the district level. Yes.
Okay.
Beyond the district level, only the international speech, but everything
Yeah.
goes to the district level.
All right. Thank you for clarifying that.
Let me think on that humor speech.
Okay, think about it.
No, I wear this at school all day, like.
No, you didn't LaShanne?
Well, you know, I was wondering about that. I think that will be yes.
So you're competing in both?
Not
gonna do both?
I'm not funny. I am not funny. I'm not gonna embarrass myself. But yes, let's represent Spartanburg Toastmasters. We got this.
LaShanne
Okay,
Goins international speech. Okay.
So is it just me and Mr. John?
So far, things can change between now and then.
Okay.
I wish I could do that.
And Lee, you can't do international?
To be determined.
Okay. I think you should if you can. If you
Well, we'll
should,
see.
you can.
We'll see. We'll see.
Okay. All right. All right, that's exciting, guys. Yay, let's go and beat.
Andre, while your wife is not here, you can volunteer her. If you got her.
Now that's funny. You need to do this. You need to do the human speech. You have me laughing.
Okay. All right. I think that is it. Just remember to confirm your roles for our next meeting. And we are going to move forward. And I'm excited about our TMOD of the day. Let me present to you Mr. Burnnie Holliday.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us here for Toastmasters. I would like to invite our guests to say, oh, we don't have any guests.
I'm working on it.
Well, I can see from the agenda, oh wait, I don't have an agenda either because it doesn't make any sense to me now anyways. The theme I picked for tonight is Dare to be Different. And part of the reason why I picked that theme was that I just came back from a photography conference where every other speech that was given was pretty much about that topic. So I'm going to be talking tonight about the advantages of being different and why you might want to consider stepping out of the normal range of expected ways to act. But before we get into all of that, I would like to invite our general evaluator up to stage. Mr. Abercrombie, you're a general evaluator? No, Andre. Andre is general evaluator. I'm going to let Andre speak and I'm going to go grab a copy of the agenda.
Well, glad to be with you fellow Toastmasters tonight. And I will be your general evaluator. This is my first time and I hope I do well. I will be doing a general evaluation of the whole meeting. But before that, I will bring up our grammarian so he can tell his role, and then the other participants for tonight. And our grammarian and word master is John Abercrombie.
Fellow Toastmasters, I will be the grammarian, and I will look for unique and great turns of phrases, usage, word usage, and crutch words. Our word of the day is courage. Now, sometimes we don't understand what courage is because we think that that is facing a tiger or a bear. But sometimes courage is much smaller and more personal. To some people, courage is crossing the threshold of that door, walking into a meeting like we're having tonight. So courage is facing a unique situation. It may frighten you, and some of us get away with it because nobody knows that we are fighting it. So courage, use it. It is part of the daring to be different. And I'll come back to you after the meeting and give you a report on our unique turns of phrase and our word usage throughout the meeting. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Abercrombie.
I'm leaving.
And you are right, it does take courage sometimes to step into these roles that we have each week. Now I will introduce our timer for tonight, Mr. Randy Riddle.
Thank you, Mr. Evaluator. So tonight I will be your timer for the speeches. If they are 5 to 7 minutes, I believe Greg's is, then for 5 minutes, I will put on the green light. At 6 minutes, the yellow light, and 7 minutes, I will put on the red light. You have a 30-second grace period before and after for those speeches in order to continue to qualify to be voted for. For the 2 to 3 minute speech that LaShanne is giving, as well as our evaluations are 2 to 3 minutes. At 2 minutes, I will give you the green light, 2.5, the yellow light, and 3 minutes, the red light. And again, you have a 30-second grace period. For our table topics, those are 1 to 2 minute speeches. So 1 minute will be the green light, 1.5 will be the yellow, and 2 will be the red light. And that is my role for the night, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Mr. Riddle. Now, I will introduce to you tonight our vote counter, which is Mr. Cheryl Letford.
Great, thank you so much, Andre. As the vote counter this evening, again, for those of you that are there at the studio, if you have a cup or some, I don't know who's going to be gathering the votes there, but I need someone there to be able to gather the votes. And then who's going to do that? I'm just looking around.
I can do that for you, Cheryl.
Okay, thank you, Burnnie, because you're the only one that can send me, a chat with the votes. So again, give Burnnie your votes if you're there in person. For those of you that are online, just send me a chat message for your favorite speaker, your favorite evaluator, and your favorite table topics. And then I will announce that at the end. So thank you.
Right, thank you, Mrs. Cheryl. Now we'll get ready to turn the meeting over to our Toastmaster of the day. And that is Mr. Burnnie Holliday.
Thank you, Andre. I appreciate that. And today you can see I am daring to be a little different. For those of you who are on Zoom, you might not be able to see it, but this is a skull paisley bow tie that I am rocking out tonight. So I am daring to be a little different myself today. I want to commend John Abercrombie. He picked an excellent word of the day to match the theme tonight. And we are going to see how our next speaker manages to fit that into our meeting. I am so prepared. Mr. Greg Allen is the founder and owner of Clear Path Financial, a financial planning firm that helps guide others along the road to their financial future. He is speaking from the Dynamic Leadership Evaluation and Feedback #2 with a speech entitled, "The Future Belongs to Those Who Prepare for It." Please welcome our current club Vice President of Public Relations, as well as our district area director, Mr. Greg Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster of the day. You know, they say that luck is nothing but opportunity meeting preparedness. So my question is, are you prepared for your financial future? That's a question that I've asked probably 1,000,000 times in the last 22 years. And so what I'd like to talk about tonight is probably one of the most boring subjects in the world. But to me, it is my passion, my living, my livelihood. So I actually enjoy talking about this. And so what I'd like to talk about tonight are the 4 basic fundamental steps to financial planning. Now, I could really dig deep into financial planning. I could probably come up with 100 steps to financial planning. But tonight we'll just focus on the 4 basic steps. And again, it is my firm belief that for those of us who are financially prepared, we're going to be better off down the road if we do the right things today. So step 1 is cash management. Cash management simply means knowing where your money is. How many of you operate off a monthly budget? Okay. So how can you prepare or plan for the future if you don't know where your money's going? Most of us get our money and it's a latte here or a mochiata here or some other toy here. Like me, I just bought a drum set. How did that play into my financial future? I don't know. But as a kid or a young adult, when I first started working, my dad would always tell me, he'd say, "Son, pay yourself first." And he would say that every day, pay yourself first, pay yourself first. Well, I was naive enough to think, well, what that meant was when I get my paycheck, I should go buy the things that I want first. Spend the money on myself first, because that's what I thought he meant. Pay yourself first. Pay yourself first simply means start saving your money before anything else. So part of step 1 in cash management is everyone needs to have 3 to 6 months of their expenses set aside in a savings account, because we all know that emergencies arise. Car breaks down, refrigerator goes out, microwave burns out, whatever the case may be. We find ourselves in these situations where we suddenly need money. And I'm sure like some of you, maybe not, I don't know, but I certainly had to go to mom and dad a few times and I need a little money. Car needs to be repaired, whatever. And I witnessed my sons do the same thing. And my youngest son would just really beat himself up when something bad would happen. I remember one day he turned out of the driveway and the wheel fell off his car. And this was probably the 4th or 5th time that something had happened to that car, which that's another whole story. He shouldn't have bought that car anyway. And I kept having to explain to Benjamin, son, if you've got savings set aside for these rainy days, they won't matter that much. Today, he understands that. Today, he understands what it means. Pay yourself first before you go buy the latte, before you go buy the drums or you know, an extra piece for your car, whatever it may be. Set aside that savings first. So in cash management, we need to have that 3 to 6 months of savings set aside before anything else. The second part of cash management and knowing where your money is going is watch the credit card debt. If you guys have never looked at your credit card statements and looked to see how much interest you're being charged, you'll probably be shocked. And I face this every day. Clients come into my office quite frequently, and every dime they make is going towards credit card payments. They're $40 and $50 and $60 and $70,000 in debt to credit cards at 24, 26, 30% interest rates. If you do the math and you count paying the minimum payment, you will never in all of God's eternity pay that credit card off. Never. Lord forbid you have a late fee in there or an over the credit limit. Now you're really in a hole. So that's step one. Step two is your protection needs. And again, in dealing with so many clients, they tend to put this step last instead of first or second. And what I simply mean by protection needs is make sure you have adequate automobile insurance. Make sure you have adequate homeowners insurance. So if you're in an automobile accident, somebody comes to sue you for their damages and you don't have enough on the auto insurance to cover those damages, guess what? They're coming after your 401k. They're coming after your IRA. They're coming after any other assets you have. Make sure you're protected. Make sure you have adequate disability insurance. At some point, I promise you, you're going to either be sick or injured and can't work if you live long enough. And you're going to wish you had that disability income rolling in the door. Along with that is life insurance. If you're relying on someone else bringing in a paycheck into your home every week, if something happens to them, that paycheck's gone. Now, what are you going to do? So make sure you and your spouse or whomever you're relying on has adequate life insurance protection. The third step in financial planning is retirement planning. And again, people think, especially younger folks, well, I'll worry about that in a couple of years. I'm only 22. I don't need to worry about that right now. Start setting aside 15 to 20% of your paycheck right now and invest it somewhere. And then step 4, which really comes last and maybe is not as important for everybody, but that's estate planning and tax planning. You've accumulated this wealth. You've done all the other 3 steps properly. Now, what do? How are you going to pass it on to the next generation? Do you want your kids to have it, or do you want Uncle Sam to have it? So that in a nutshell is the 4 basic steps to financial planning: cash management, protection, retirement planning, and estate planning. Mr. Toastmaster of the day.
Thank you very much, Greg. And I dare say that actually planning and trying to make sure that everything is set aside properly and budgeting is probably doing something a little different, especially if you consider me being normal. You know, what do? I dump my entire 401k into opening a studio. Anyways, Mr. Timer, if we can get 1 minute on the clock, please, while I tell you a little bit about being different. I mentioned that our word of the day was excellent. And one of the things I like to tell my daughter sometimes is that being afraid is an opportunity to have courage. Now, that means that you cannot have courage until you have become afraid. Ruminate on that a second. And then bring it back to the theme of the night, saying, how do we become different if we're too afraid to step out of line? That's the courage we need to find within ourselves and the courage we need to exhibit every day. If you ever want to stand out, if you ever want to be an identity and not just part of the mob. 1 minute. Yeah, okay. Next on our agenda is this LaShanne Goins. I don't know what her speech title is. I don't know what her introduction is. It is a complete surprise because everything got changed at the last minute. I do know that she is not speaking for 10 to 15 minutes. She is not doing a level 4 elective. It might be the dying language. It could just be the dying Toastmaster of the day on stage, but I am happy to introduce Miss LaShanne Goins, who is IP5 and our president. LaShanne.
Thank you so much, Mr. Burnnie Holliday. Couldn't have a better one. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. Yes, my speech title is Work Smarter, Not Harder. I've decided to take on the challenge at, you all are aware of the group home that I love to work at on my time off. When I go in, the kids, they always say, you're finally here, or what are you doing here today? Or are you working today? And I tell them, I don't work here. This is just my play job. I love to come and have fun with you guys. But the owner of this home has been trying to make this home better over the past 20 years. And I just happened to be there when I was fresh out of college, and I'm back again about 2017, and now it's working on becoming accredited. Well, if you know anything about becoming accredited, that is a very difficult process. But I believe that we can do it. But the one thing I realized, we've been in this for about maybe a year and a half, and you all have heard me talk about the teaching family model and teaching the kids skills in order to improve their ability to relate with, I don't know if it's the norm or society, because many of them have not been exposed. But coming with this, there's several steps that we must take in order to make sure that this home becomes accredited. One, we have to have a motivational system in place, something that is systematic, as well as you have to determine whether or not the kids, measurable is the word. But the system that we have come up with, or that was brought to our attention, was very tedious. And we spent hours and hours training the staff, getting the kids to understand the system to the point that we lost so much time. Finally, we came up with an idea that we are going to change the way it's supposed to be. The other thing that we spent a lot of time on was training. Hours and hours of planning, lots of money spent, and the training has it's overwhelmed us completely. Because anytime you know that change is taking place, what do people do? They quit. So we've had a great turnover. And my job is to come up with a plan and I cannot wait to share with you all as to how we will work smarter and not harder using the teaching family model. Mr. Toastmaster.
If I can have my, please, thank you. What's that? Oh, what's that? Put an extra light out. Now I've got some shade running up on stage. All right. Mr. Timer, can we have a timer's report on our speakers, please?
Mr. Toastmaster, can we do 1 minute before we do a timer's report?
Sure, you want 1 minute? We can do 1 minute. Let's do 1 minute. We do it in 1 minute? We're gonna do 1 minute. 1 minute? 1 minute. All right, 1 minute. So one of the things I'd like to add to being able to stand out, being able to be different and stand out in the crowd, so you're not just one of the faceless masses, you become a person who can be remembered, is you have to be outstanding. To be outstanding, you have to stand out. And to stand out in the correct way, you have to be outstanding. So when you try to be different, don't just be different for different sake. Allow the pieces of your personality to stand out. Mr. Timer, can we have a timer's report, please?
Yes, sir. So for Greg Allen's speech, we had 7 minutes and 34 seconds. And for Miss LaShanne Goins' speech, we had 3 minutes and 17 seconds.
If you are here in the meeting with us, please deliver your votes over to this desk over here, and I will make sure that I will be sending them over to our vote counter, Miss Cheryl Ledford. But to continue our meeting tonight, I'm going to turn things over to Mr. John McKinney for our wonderful table topic session. John, take it away.
Good evening. Hello, what's up and how you doing, fellow Toastmasters? And there are not any guests. I am so sorry about that. Dare to be different. I love today's theme. Whenever I think of certain things like that, I think of personal development. What areas can I grow in? What areas I need to change in? What areas do I need to just try new? But today's table topic is going to be a little something, a little bit of a twist to it. It's going to be a twofold thing. Number one is truth or dare. Well, truth and dare, so I say. And when I talk about dare to be different, it's going to be related to the questions that I'm about to ask. My first truth and dare question: I dare you to be transparent and vulnerable. And I also dare you to tell me the truth of a mistake you made and what you learned from it. Mr. Randy Riddle.
If someone will time me for me.
Gotcha. Go ahead.
Okay. To make sure I understand your question, you dared me to be truthful about a mistake I've made and what I've learned.
What did you learn from it? Yes.
Okay. Well, the most obvious one that stands out to me is when I had my truck wreck back in 2016 or 17, I believe. I was going down the road, and anytime my mom rode with me in the truck, she would always open up or close the air vent, whichever one it was. She liked it to be the opposite for some reason. So I noticed that it was closed as I was going down the road, and it was dumb, but for some reason I got focused on the fact that it was closed and decided I was going to try to open it. I'm traveling 60 miles an hour down the road. I've just exited a curve. And when I looked up, I was headed towards a ditch. Well, the way that I describe the story from this point on is there's a steep ditch and a house right past it. I didn't want to go through this house in my Toyota and accidentally hit some little boy who's running through the house excited playing with Lego Batman. So I steer back to the other side of the road because I overcorrected and now I'm in the lane of oncoming traffic. Thankfully, no one was on my way. So I overcorrected again. The truck fishtailed and I front flipped 3 times in a field. My head shattered the driver's side window because of the airbag. And luckily, the worst of my injuries was a 4-centimeter cut above my left eye with maybe either a piece of glass or a bone that's just hidden away in the underneath what they call the orbital, which is just the bone right below my eyebrow. What I learned from that is whenever you're driving, you should look at nothing except the road in front of you and your speedometer. And that's it. Mr. Table Topics Master.
Great answer, Mr. Riddle. Next, everyone always talk about how they want to make a change in this world, how they want to make an impact. And my next question would be, I dare you to tell me the truth. If you had the opportunity to make an impact on someone, who would it be, meaning the group of people, and why? Miss Cheryl Leopard.
Great. Thank you so very much, John. That's a great question. If I had the ability to influence a group of people, it would be students. It would be college students. As I taught class today, we were discussing the criteria for their very first speech of the semester. This is the 3rd week, and this is their first speech, and they're all nervous, they're scared. And it breaks my heart to see how they don't have the courage to speak. And if I could, my goal throughout the semester is to give them confidence and to teach them tips and hints to give a good speech. So if I could just influence students and young people to, again, have the courage to learn to use their voice to make a positive change and to have themselves heard and to make change in the world, then that would be a wonderful goal. And so again, thank you for that question, and I will turn it back over to you, John.
Thank you, Cheryl. I have a quick story about that. I was going to Spartanburg Community College back in 2007. I was 40 years old when I started discovering my niche in public speaking. It wasn't until 2009 when I took Miss Cheryl Ledford's class on interpersonal communication, which was the final nail in the coffin on when I discovered my niche. And I've always give kudos to Cheryl for that. She taught an awesome class. Thank you so much for that answer, Cheryl. Next, speaking of public speaking, when I first started preaching God's word back in 2002, my biggest weakness was stage fright. And believe it or not, it still is. I remember the first time I got behind a pulpit, I gripped it, my knees were buckling, and I'm a bow-legged man. However, the way my knees buckle, you'll think I'm not neat. Okay? And I never thought that I would overcome that fear. I never thought that I would be a Toastmaster. Needless to say, public speaking was one of the things to start bringing me out of my comfort zone. So my next question would be, I dare you to tell me the truth and tell me, what is the one thing you would do to come out of your comfort zone and why, Mr. Andre Tate?
So the question is, what is one thing I would do to come out of my comfort zone?
And why?
Well, I believe this Toastmaster is kind of bringing me out of my comfort zone, because I'm not used to this, and it's truly something different, but it's helping me. I'm seeing my mistakes, and I'm I'm learning from you guys because I do want to be a better presenter and a better speaker. You know, in anything we do, we want to give our best, and I want to do my best, and that God may be glorified through me. So that's why I'm taking this Toastmaster class to get better and to learn, and I believe I am. That's my answer.
Well, Andre, if that's your story, stick with it, my friend. And by the way, you're doing an awesome job as a Toastmaster. You're doing a great job. And that's all I have. And I'll turn it over to the general evaluator and who that might be. Oh, timers report.
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master. For our 3 speakers, I spoke for 2 minutes and 12 seconds. Miss Cheryl Ledford's speech was for 1 minute and 8 seconds, and Andre's speech was for 44 seconds.
Now I'll turn everything over to the general evaluator and who that might be. Oh, Mr. Andre Tate. Go right ahead, take it away, Andre.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. McKinney. Now, at this time, we will have our evaluation of our speeches. And our first evaluator is Mrs. Cheryl Ledford. And I will turn it over to her.
Thank you so very much. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and to my dear friend, Greg. You always do a great job, Greg. I'm always so impressed. The first thing that I noticed when you came up was how you were dressed. You do typically wear your suit jacket from work, but it's that first impression. You showed us that you were professional, that you were credible, and that you knew what you were talking about. You chose a topic which you knew well. I always tell my students, pick a topic that you know well so that you know how to pronounce the words, you just feel more comfortable. And so that you knew your topic well because, as you said, that's how you make your money. That's what you've lived, eat, and breathed for numerous years. So I enjoyed you sharing with us that information. You spoke with such confidence because you did know your topic. You maintained eye contact throughout the entire speech. Like I never saw you look down you connected so well with the audience. I love that about you. And I believe that I saw when you first, you said a few sentences and then you moved the lectern to the side. If I was watching correctly, so that it made you, it took away that physical barrier so that you could be closer to your audience, which that's such a good trait to have because that helps you to connect with them. I said you had the courage to move that lectern and get physically closer to your audience. Okay. And I also noticed at the beginning of your speech, you had a great introduction. You used a rhetorical question asking us about our own personal finances. That's always a great way to start a speech, is by asking a rhetorical question, pulling us in and making us think about our own finances. And you also did a good internal preview. And if you're not familiar, an internal preview is, today I'm going to share with you the 4 tips for financial planning. So it's like you're telling us what you're going to tell us. So you told us the 4 tips for financial planning and gave us some stories to go along with it. And then at the end of the speech, you gave us an internal summary. You said, today I've told you the 4 tips of financial planning. You repeated them and then you completed the speech. So that was very well put together, very well organized. You just didn't miss a beat. The only thing that I saw for any area of improvement was when you're talking about the financial aspect, you knew everything you were going to say and everything was like very comfortable. But when you talk like about the stories or saving money, like if our microwave goes out or something like that, you tend to have just a few filler words because you didn't know what you were going to say, versus when you're talking about financial things, you know that so well, you didn't have any filler words. But other than that, again, thank you for giving us that speech. And we all can benefit from saving money. And dear God, those poor people that have $60,000 on a credit card, I'm glad I'm not one of them. So thank you very much for all of that, those tips. And I'll turn it back over to you. Thank you.
Great job, Mrs. Cheryl. Now I will have our next evaluator, which is Mr. Lee Holliday.
Mr. General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, and particularly LaShanne. LaShanne, I have to share with you something I read this morning because what you said sort of made me think about it again. And that was, when you walk into a room, do you change the temperature of the room, or does the temperature of the room change you? Or in other words, do you make a difference in the world, or does the world make a difference in you? And I believe you are the former of that. You make a difference because you are doing something that you are passionate about. And I love to hear you talk about it. The passion in your voice comes through loud and clear. And that is amazing. That always makes for a great speech. I saw you using some gestures that would support your speech as you went through, and they were very helpful to bring your audience into what you were saying. And I felt the energy that you have for what you were talking about, and it made all of us feel energized because it was just exuding from you. It was something that you had to share with each of us. You made us want to be different, to be more like you than like the world. A couple of things I would offer you that could help make your speech even better. What could help you be the very best you could possibly be? What could help you show courage even more? Sometimes you do what I just did. You pause at an awkward moment, like you're not sure what you're going to say next. Pauses are great in a speech, but I've heard you a few times where you just pause and then you go on with what you're saying. I hope you get the impression of what I feel like I'm getting from you. And I believe your speaking will be even better if you could make those pauses at the end of a thought and before you start another thought. That would be so much more impactful. What I saw today was you standing seemingly in one place. Now, I know we don't have a lot of space to move from side to side in the room there, but there is a speaking area there. And I want to encourage you to take more advantage of that speaking area, to move from one spot to the next, to be able to do that better and better as you go along. However, LaShanne, you were amazing tonight. Great speech. I look forward to hearing the next speech about this project. Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Mr. Lee Holliday. And I totally agree that LaShanne has great courage to be working with these young people. And I know she is going to make a great difference. Now we will have our grammarian and word master, Mr. Abercrombie come up right now.
Thank you, sir. I would like to commend all of the members tonight because we did not have very many crutch words. One thing that we look at sometimes that I was about to make a note about was the fact that we often look at the use of words such as and so extremely critical. But I think that they only make a difference when we use them as crutch words and double and triple and quadruple them as we go along. But what I saw tonight took a lot of courage because each and every member here has demonstrated the courage not to fit in, but to stand out. And what we've seen has been encouraging in those aspects. This is what has made this a fantastic club. Hats off to everyone. And again, I think that we did very well because we encouraged each other along the way. The crutch words were not significant, but continue not to fit in, but have the courage to stand out. Thank you.
Now, we will get a timers report from Mr. Randy Riddle.
For our evaluation from Cheryl, we have 3 minutes and 15 seconds. And from Lee Holliday, we have 3 minutes and 12 seconds.
Now, we will get our votes. We need a tally of our votes, and I believe that is going to be Mrs. Cheryl Latford.
Thank you very much. And I was just checking my messages from Burnnie. Thank you so much, Burnnie, for being my helper this evening. For table topics, I'm sorry, I won for table topics, so thank you for your votes. And the best evaluator goes to Mr. Lee Holliday. Congratulations, Lee. And for our best speaker, we had two wonderful speakers, Shane and Greg. But the winner goes to Mr. Greg Allen. So congratulations, Greg. And I'll turn it back over to, I believe, the Toastmaster of the day.
Thank you very much, Cheryl. Congratulations to all of our winners. Of course, we all do the best we can, and we're all excellent in of ourselves. Yes, Lee.
Did we get a general evaluation report from our general evaluator?
We did not.
Oh, Andre trying to sneak that one by us. All right, Andre on spotlight.
Well, I will give my general evaluation of the meeting. Our theme, Dare to be Different. And I think we all have dared to be different in our own way. Our word courage was used many times throughout. And each speaker did a great job. I took a lot of notes from you, Mr. Allen. Trying to get my finances in order. So thank you for what you do. You, I know, are a blessing to so many people. And LaShanne, again, your speech was great, and what you're doing, working with young people, it's an inspiration. Table topics went great. And each of the evaluators did a great job. And overall, I think the meeting was great. Like Mr. Abercrombie said, we had few crutch words besides probably mine, but overall, the meeting was great. And I'm going to turn it back over to Toastmaster of the day, Mr. Burnnie.
Thank you, Andre. I've gone ahead and put our next couple of agendas up on the screen. You see our next Toastmaster of the day will be Mr. Lee Holliday. We're looking forward to that. I'll be your general evaluator. And speaking will be Cheryl Ledford, John McKinney, and John Abercrombie. Uh-oh, Battle of the Johns. We just need Frey to take over Cheryl's role. We have a John. It'd be all Johns all the time. Anyways, do we have any announcements?
Well, sure. I can make a few if you'd like.
Sure, go for it. We're running on time, so go for it.
So as the area director, I'll just make a couple of announcements. Most of you already heard LaShanne speak about the humorous contest and the international competition coming up. But we also have the annual conference in Myrtle Beach this year. It'll be the last weekend of April. And so I'm excited about that. I think we have the world champion speaker as our keynote speaker for that event. But what I wanted to ask tonight is we're looking for sponsorship for the conference. You know, any of y'all just want to put a mention of the club or a business, you know, or anything. I am chairing up the sponsorship committee. So if you want to place some kind of ad in the program for this year, please just reach out and let me know, and I would appreciate it. And if we raise at least half of what they've budgeted, then that lowers everyone's cost by 50% to get to go to the conference. So a little incentive for us to get some money flowing into the program director. Thank you, Burnnie.
Thank you, Greg. Any other club business or announcements? In that case, we're adjourned. Thank you, guys, and I hope you have a great night.
All right, guys, have a blessed one.